Hi, I'm Natalie Phillips-Mason, and this is the Open Wired podcast. Through respectful curiosity, we have candid conversations that explore human diversity and how to create inclusive ecosystems for all minds, bodies, and identities. My guests are change makers who are doing the practical, sometimes unglamorous work to make inclusion real. In case we haven't met, I'm Natalie, founder of Inclusive Change. I champion human talent with a neurodiversity lens, using my background in organisational change management to help organisations value and normalise human differences. We have a strong focus on sensory-friendly working, and sensory friendliness will come into almost every conversation we talk about. My guest today is Storm Menzies, who uses her lived experience of disability to solve a problem she identified when she injured her dominant hand and couldn't use her makeup. While this might sound trivial, for millions of people with disability, this is an everyday activity that they are excluded from, simply because accessible beauty products are not available widely. Storm's products help people feel good about themselves by providing a solution to an accessibility product gap. We're going to explore why accessible beauty is so important and Storm's journey from a beauty customer to a retail supplier. Open Wired is recorded on the land of the Bunurong people. We acknowledge the richness and diversity of Indigenous communities and the wisdom of storytelling that has been passed down from generation to generation. We pay our respects to elders past and present. Open Wired conversations are for interest only. A reminder that we do not provide medical or clinical advice, medical assessments or diagnoses, legal or employee relations advice. Please consult with a qualified healthcare provider or other relevant professional for specific concerns related to your mental health or any medical conditions. If you do need a transcript, that will be available via Apple Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. So Storm, welcome to Inclusive Conversations. It's great to have you on.
So excited to be here.
Let's start with a little bit about you for people who haven't come across ByStorm or come across you. Take us back a little bit to how ByStorm came to be. You know, how do you describe your brand? Tell us how it was conceived and how you got to market.
In all honesty, I wasn't ever really thinking of launching a beauty brand or a business. It didn't start with, hey, I'm going to launch a business, an idea. And it actually started with experiencing a problem. I broke my dominant hand about 3 years ago now. Broke my dominant hand, and I have mild cerebral palsy, so it affects the right side of my body. But to be honest, I've lived with very few challenges. I, type a bit funny and I'm a bit clumsy, but most of the time people don't notice. It's very much an internal struggle for me. And I've just really learned to compensate and problem solve a lot, like a lot of people do when they experience challenges. So when I broke my dominant hand, it was the first time that I was like, oh my gosh, I actually can't do the things that I need to be doing. For the most part, you can do workarounds, but I had this, it's a very distinct memory for me. I had just broken my arm and we were going to ready to get it, to go out. And I went to do my makeup, honestly, not thinking much about it, just because I just didn't even cross my mind that this would be challenging for me. And I went to pick up my mascara. First of all, couldn't pick it up. And then I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? Managed to pick it up. And then I was like, how do I twist this? How do I actually open this? How do I hold it? How do I use it? And I end up just sitting on my bathroom floor crying, feeling very hopeless. So I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. How can I not do my makeup right now? So, you do the thing after you have a cry and you Google. And I Googled and thinking, okay, there's going to be accessible makeup. Everything's going to be fine. Googling and there's nothing coming up. There was one brand in the US that didn't ship to Australia. And I'm like, hold on a second, this doesn't make sense. Maybe I'm using the wrong words. I called one of my girlfriends. We've been friends for, probably 8 years at this point, and she has a severe form of cerebral palsy. And I'm like, hey, how are you doing your makeup? And she goes, what do you mean? With great difficulty? Why? And I was like, wait, hold on a second. I'm thinking she's going to tell me about all of these accessible beauty brands that I just couldn't find on Google. And instead she's like, Storm, makeup isn't made for people like me. And like, why would it be? No one thinks that I'm beautiful. And she said it in this way that was like, well, duh, it's an obvious point. And it was such a confronting thing to hear because I had been in the disability space for a very long time at that point in a variety of roles. And I had never once asked my friend how she did her makeup. I'd never once thought about how anyone with disability does their makeup because I had always found workarounds I didn't even realize because you're just so used to problem solving yourself that you often don't think about other people. And it was the first kind of realization that I had that like, oh my gosh, this is a huge problem for a lot of people. And it is bigger than just being able to open a product. It's about what not being able to use and access a product actually means. You don't see yourself represented.
And that's a really important point because as you were speaking, I was thinking, mascara. But what does mascara represent? What do health and beauty products represent to people? How does it make people feel? Everyone has the right to feel good about themselves. And it's almost like the mascara is quite symbolic, isn't it, of identity and of the inability to be able to engage and to feel good about yourself. Is that a little bit about how you felt? Because it's not the actual mascara, it's what it represents, yeah? Is that...
Exactly. It's about why is no one making a product that you can use? Why are you constantly never being thought of in spaces that are meant to be for everyone and are meant to be empowering and confidence building? And we're sold a narrative constantly as females that, like beauty is fun and joyful and it's self-expression and it's identity and it's play. But when you don't have products that have ever been considered for people with disability or people who don't have, two perfectly working hands, you're constantly left out of that. And, it's not like the world is directly saying to you, hey, you're ugly, you don't belong here. But when no one is talking to you, what happens is you create that narrative in your head that I don't belong here. These products aren't made for me. It's because no one thinks that I could be beautiful. And that's the belief that so many, particularly young girls, form. Because you think of I think of my very early years when I was playing with lipstick and you're playing with your mum's eyeshadow and, you're in there as a 5-year-old, just playing. And you think, wait, if you were born with a disability and you're a young girl with a disability, did you get that experience? And what about when you're going through your teenage years and high school, going through all the, the bad foundation lines and that rite of passage that's, iconic to, I would say, the majority of women's self-development and experimentation of who they think they are, the emo phase, all the different phases that we go through. And you think, wait, were they ever able to, have we ever been able to participate in those things? How does that impact someone's self-identity and their expression and all of those things? And that was kind of the realization that I had, that I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that it was that so many people were excluded and this was the way that so many people were feeling. And I only realized that it was, not just my friend's perspective, but I ended up doing some research because I was like, okay, I have to do something about this, right? I'm like a dog with a bone with these things. I'm like, oh, if I feel injustice or I see injustice or there's a problem, I'm like, I have to solve it. So I was like, okay, I at first thought I need to make accessible makeup. That's what I need to do. Why don't we have accessible makeup? The world needs accessible makeup. I'm going to do this. So I did some research initially just with friends with disability. I was a support coordinator at the time. So I had clients with disabilities as well. And I'd been a support worker. So, I kind of did this research at first, which was, quite biased because it's, friends and family. But the really interesting thing from that was that they were like, I don't want accessible makeup. I just want to use the same products as all of my friends.
Yeah.
I don't want something different. I don't want to have to go to the special section for special people. Yeah. Everything that I do has to be different. I just want to be quote unquote normal. And that to me was even more eye-opening to be like, oh my gosh, that's so right. My original thinking was to go, hey, let's make a product again that is different. Instead of going, why aren't we changing the products we already have to be more accessible and to be more inclusive. So, we kind of came up with the idea of making an attachment for makeup products opposed to reinventing makeup itself. So, people can use all the favorite products that they love or their friends are using or that are viral and trending on TikTok, right? They can use all those same products with a little bit of support. And I don't know if you've ever looked at something called a grip aid before, but it's about as sexy as it sounds, which is not very sexy at all. So very much had this idea of like, okay, well, if I'm going to make an attachment for makeup, I'm going to make it look pretty. We're not talking about like, I'm sorry, but like ugly disability tech that, they often only create for function and then we don't move past that point of function. No, I want to create something that is like beautiful, that could be used by everyone, that is joyous, that doesn't carry the shame that often using assistive technology does carry. So went down the very long journey of thinking that I could teach myself how to 3D model and buy a 3D printer and make all of these different prototypes and attachments with people in my community as well, which was really cool. So got to do a lot of co-design sessions and have feedback sessions, and we just like iterated and iterated on all of these different products. And honestly, I've got, a pipeline of like 20 different kinds of products, but due to cost of manufacturing, I ended up just going, okay, let's choose two and let's go forward with this. Let's see if we can do it.
So you started with a 3D printer in your house and you basically just created some designs, you co-designed with people from your target audience effectively. Tell me how difficult it was to be able to pitch. So how did you find the pitch process? How did you find, did you have to go and get funding? You and I first met at the Disability Technology Conference last year. And I think in that day, which was just so incredibly inspiring, and I know that sounds cliche, but it really was, I walked away just buzzing from all of the amazing people there who were standing up and who were approaching and solving problems that they had experienced. But, it was a bit full on, people were pitching there. There's a lot of amazing, innovative people out there solving. But, it takes some guts to kind of, I think it takes guts to be able to pitch and to be able to convince people to invest in your product. So I'm curious to know whether that was the process you had to take and how you found that.
Look, I've had no experience pitching prior to this at all. So it's been a very big learning journey and learning how to articulate the problem, how to also navigate understanding, because the people that I'm essentially pitching to when I am trying to when I have been pitching at events, but also to investors and things, the majority of the time the people have no understanding of accessibility or why it's important. Sometimes you get the rare instance where someone might have a family member who lives with disability and has a little bit of insight, but for the most part, a lot of the difficulties come from helping them understand. And when they get it, they go, oh, okay. But probably the most difficult thing in that is still not seeing that it's worth it. And that's probably honestly just really hard and really demoralizing a lot of the time, because it's like, oh, I get it. Great product. What a great idea. What a nice thing you're doing for those disabled people. But it's not, even when I am presenting the economic benefit to this, when I'm pitching, all the things that we know why this is so important, not just from this should exist, but also from the you have to speak investor language, which is the return on your investment. How are you going to make money from this? Even still, what I've realized is it's really difficult to talk to people who haven't had the lived experience of what you're trying to pitch. And I think, I have a lot of friends who are in business who are not in the inclusion space, but are, trying to pitch female-focused products. And they're experiencing the same thing, because the majority of gatekeepers are men who don't live with those problems. So it's harder for, I think, just women in general to pitch ideas, or minority groups to pitch ideas, when the people that we're pitching to don't often get it in the same way. Because when you're speaking to someone who gets it, it's of course.
It's an easy conversation. Yeah. So, but you are out there and you are live. So tell us where you are at the moment. Where are your products?
Yeah, of course. So at the moment we're selling primarily online. I'm in a few assistive tech retailers and have some very exciting discussions going on at the moment to get into some major retailers, which is really exciting. And the reception that I've had has been really phenomenal. You know, talking about the demoralization of talking to investors, it's actually kind of the flip side when I'm talking to beauty brands. It's actually, you know, part of my products and part of my strategy is to do collaborations with beauty brands. For me, that's important for a couple of reasons. The first is we need mainstream beauty to get on board. Like, we need them to understand, but from a lot of the conversations I've had with big beauty brands is that they want to, but they're scared. They're actually really scared in doing it wrong, getting it wrong, not knowing what the community needs. When they get that it's a problem, it's like, okay, cool. Then they get scared because what if we get called out? What if we get it wrong? What if we get cancelled? This could do more damage to us getting it wrong than it is actually even trying. And that's been an interesting thing to navigate. But part of my pitch to beauty brands is that, well, I hold that risk for you. You know, you can say that, you know, you did a collaboration with me and I've got it all wrong. The good thing about collaborations is that I hold the risk because I know I've got the trust of my community. I've got a really, really strongly engaged community, and my products were designed with the disability community as well. And so I know I have their trust that it's not, you know, it's not a tick box. It's not a tokenistic play for brands. I hold that risk, which makes them, I guess, dipping their toe into inclusion and accessibility feel a lot more safe for them. And the thing that I really try to support in that is that my products just kind of open the door for them, because it is accessibility without them having to change anything. Because that's also, you know, to change anything, to add things, to redesign, it's really expensive for brands. So they have to make decisions about accessibility and inclusion in the framework of finances, like any business. And they have to do that, like that weigh up. Is it going to be worth us redesigning everything when we don't know if products are going to sell or if we have this community here? But because my products are essentially an add-on to their existing products where they make their products more accessible without them actually having to change anything, the benefit for them is that they get to first engage with a community that they can't reach. They get to start to understand the needs of that community. And the benefit for me and the benefit for them as well is that that opens the conversation. So, like, as an example, I did a collaboration with Bowie where we did my products in their colors that made their products more accessible. But the cool thing from there is then we started to have more conversations about accessibility. And it's not a collaboration that was like, okay, cool, here's a few posts, a few products, and let's go. It was, hey, what is accessibility? They're having the conversations.
It's an education.
Hey, I don't know about this. I'm scared of getting it wrong. And, you know, we were able to redesign. They just launched into Woolworths, into like 1,000 stores, however many stores Woolworths has across the country. And we made a really small tweak to their packaging that essentially added an easy tear. So their packaging was easier to open, which seems like a really, really small thing to do. But for the people who struggle to open packaging, who have to wait for their partner or their support worker or someone to help them, being able to buy a product and then open that product themselves, that is joy that
absolutely
and get to experience.
Absolutely. And you and I spoke about this before we kind of started recording, but the two things we spoke about was choice and the ability for people to have choice. But the other thing we spoke about was the kind of what I referred to as the retail curb cut effect. So that packaging has probably made it easier for anybody, has also made it easier for the people who are helping the person who's purchased the product. I mean, how many packages do you struggle with when, you know, you don't experience disability when it comes to, you know, I've got, you know, thank God I've got two, you know, I don't have issues or any issues with my hands, but I struggle with some sorts of packaging where I just go, I can't open the pack. It drives me crazy. I cannot open the pack.
Well, something that is really interesting, it's like, I think it's 5 million Australians live with arthritis. Like, it's a huge number of people that live with arthritis, and a huge number of people, like hundreds of thousands of people, end up in hospitals from injuries trying to open packaging. Like, it's like wild. And the thing that really I always find really interesting with brands, and it's something that I speak a lot about to brands, is that we really focus on our customer journey from the point of advertising, adding to cart, making sure that our website is really smooth and that the checkout process is streamlined and every single touch point is really amazing. But past that sale, we don't think about the product experience when it comes to opening the packet. So if you have to open your, let's say, a jar of face cream, right, every day, and it's a gold slippery lid, and you struggle with that face cream every single day to open it, is that going to make you more or less likely to purchase? And making a tiny little tweak to packaging that for someone who doesn't struggle would make zero difference for them. But someone who does struggle means that they would repurchase. We're leaving so much money on the table. Brands are leaving so much money on the table and they don't see it. And particularly when we're starting to see an emergence of brands that are catering to like an older female demographic. And the statistics of arthritis after age 50 is really huge, particularly in beauty and hairdressing, which are often bigger users of beauty as well. We're not considering those things when we're like, hey, dexterity gets more difficult for everyone as you age. These are things that we need to be thinking about when it comes to the user experience of our products and of our services, so we have greater retention and better word of mouth.
There's a really strong parallel between what you're describing and the works that we do in neuro-inclusion, because, and particularly the research we've done into physical retail experiences. And you're talking about the parallel with, arthritis as another condition. I look at migraine sufferers. And so migraine sufferers, when you walk into bright stores, when you walk into precincts that have all of those different sensory elements affecting you. And, again, we're not talking about a small community of shoppers. We're talking these elements have effects on really broad consumer segments. So, yeah, 100% agree with you. And it is about joy. And it's also, as you were describing the opening the jar of, say, face cream, the experience of not being able to open that jar, I would imagine, would make someone feel quite awful about themselves. We talked about self-esteem earlier. I think that's something we don't often think about at the forefront, that it's so the customer experience, as you said, goes into well beyond purchase.
Absolutely. And something I found in my research, because after I did my bias focus group research, I actually did do a research survey. Something that I found in that is the amount of people who blame themselves over the products, which is really interesting, is that people don't go, oh, this jar sucks, I can't open it. People go, I can't do it. It's because my disability, my terrible hands, my whatever it is. But from the brand's perspective, it's not exactly like they've gotten off scot-free from that, because what happens is that you then associate those bad feelings about yourself to using that brand. And then that association is something that is really hard to quantify, to explain to a business, but it makes so much sense, right? When you have a bad experience of something, you don't think very well. It's probably not going to be the best analogy, but it's like when you get food poisoning and you can't go back and eat that last meal because you have that association. Even if it wasn't the thing that gave you food poisoning, you still have that association where you're like, I'm not going back there.
I'm going back to my young days where people used to drink, tequila with the worm in it. I'm like, okay, we won't go there anymore. Let's quick diversion to something else. I'm really interested in your experience of health and beauty as a category from a personal perspective. You've spoken about your own kind of journey into launching ByStorm and the accessibility aspect. I guess what I'm interested in is how you find the experience of retail stores predominantly, and some of the trends and what you might be seeing around you in terms of some trends. Clearly, AI is playing a massive role, and health and beauty is certainly being affected by that as well. But what are you seeing around you? Is there good stuff that you're seeing? Is there, what can you share with us?
I've been like a long time beauty lover, enthusiast. I feel like I've been a part of every single like trend and product. I'm a very much an early adopter of pretty much anything new. I've always been that kind of person. I think at the moment in the beauty space, my perspective of beauty has changed so much, because it's one of those things you can't unsee something when you see it. So I would say I was a very passive beauty consumer before, where kind of like I was describing, you often blame yourself when you can't do something and you find a workaround. Now I'm in so much this is accessibility space. It's honestly changed my entire perception of beauty because, you know, as an example, even talking about an online space for beauty, when I go into a beauty store, when I go into any store now, I look at the accessibility of everything, right? Because it's just so front of mind for me. It's very hit and miss, let's be real. I think it would be, I know from my friends who are wheelchair users, it's incredibly difficult navigating a store because things are too high, they're not at level. One of the really big things is that a lot of the staff in a major beauty retailer aren't comfortable talking to people with disability, and that's really obvious. And it's the experience that a lot of my friends have said directly to me, but also going into stores with my friends who are wheelchair users, we're almost avoided. I was in a Mecca at the end of last year with one of my friends who is a wheelchair user. And I was like, oh, let's get the girl. We were like trying to swatch things. And I was like, oh, let's go. Where are they? They're always around. She goes, they're never around when I'm in here. And I said, what do you mean? And she goes, oh, people are just like scared to me. It's like the wheelchair. It freaks them out and they don't know how to talk to me. And she said it again. I think it's a very like when you have a disability, you just have honestly a really dark sense of humor where you're just like, oh, typical. And I'm like, like appalled because I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, oh, it just like, you know, it is what it is. But it really deters that experience of going in. You know, has a lot of self-confidence and she's also a huge beauty lover. So she's able to push past that.
And will be spending money. Let's not forget the kind of commercial, you know, impact of this. Has money to spend.
Oh, she would spend, we were making the joke, probably about 80% of my paycheck goes to Mecca because she's like the beauty obsessed queen. But it's this really interesting perspective, right? And then we go, okay, well, if the spaces aren't accessible, then where do people shop? Oh, they shop online. Oh, but this is the thing. How do we know if a product is going to be able to use if we're online?
Absolutely.
But then again, what if you're blind or low vision and we haven't made the website accessible, which is many, many websites? How do I know from looking at a product if I'm going to be able to use it? Is it plastic? Is it glass? Because something that I look, for example, I can't buy anything in glass because I break everything. I cannot buy a glass, but it is very rare that they even have the packaging material of a product on a website. So I'm like, is that glass? Is that plastic? Because that deters me from buying. I will buy it if it's plastic, but I won't if it's glass. And a lot of people, when you have allergies and really sensitive skin, you're looking for certain ingredients, you're looking for certain applications. Is it a pump bottle? The amount of photos online that don't have what the applicator is mind-blowing. A lot of my community won't use a pump bottle. Like if it's too small, the nozzle's too small because it will tip over. So we're looking for certain things on a product to make sure we're not going to break it and we can actually use it. But we can't get that from the information online. And then we're in store and we're not really helped, or the layout isn't very accessible. And you're like, do you guys even want me to shop here? Like, I've got money to spend. Do you guys want my money? Is my money not good enough for you? Like, it feels very challenging when it should be a really fun and exciting, like joyful experience.
Particularly health and beauty, because the colours and the options and yeah, look, I totally agree. And it's another thing that our research has shown is that, you know, you can't replace the entire online journey for certain products. You want to be able to see a colour. You want to be able to feel how greasy something might be on your skin. You know, if you're shopping for clothes, you might, you know, it's not just the health and beauty category, but particularly in this space, I think there's a massive opportunity.
I think also the importance of the retail experience, kind of what we were talking about before, is that we're so oversaturated with being online. There's just so much, particularly at the moment in this global context. People are so searching for connection. And with COVID, we were really like, oh, wow, we can get anything at our fingertips. This is amazing. And I feel like most people are like, I don't want this. We kind of forgot that there was a joyous experience and activity in going to the store, and actually the activity of going out. And you think about that from like a well-being and psychological level as well, right? when you are looking good and you're feeling good, which is often when you get dressed, you go out, you leave the house, generally people go, I should look a bit more presentable. You start feeling better about yourself, right? And when you're in a better headspace, clearer head, you're like, I feel like spending. Like, oh, I want this. You get excited about that like initial purchasing experience as well. And maybe that's just me, but I very much do when you're like, oh, because it becomes, an experience in itself. And it's a really challenging thing when a lot of time our online experience now, kind of bringing AI back into it. But I'm sure you've probably seen all the controversy with brands using colored swatches and then being AI generated colored swatches. So the online experience is almost getting more difficult because we actually don't know what we're buying online. So I think people are becoming really, I know in my group chats, we're like, oh, do you see this? Do you see the color swatch? Like, obviously AI, how good actually is it? And those things really matter when you're buying.
So is it a trust? It's a trust piece as well?
100%. I think with a lot of things with reviews now as well, I think that so many reviews are AI generated or are paid for. And I think we're losing a lot of trust in beauty. I think we're losing trust with brands and retailers because a lot of it feels very like artificial and not real and represented. They're getting the sale and they don't care. You want to be invested in a brand. You want to buy a product that aligns with your values, that you trust, that you can, that you're excited about. And I think we're really losing it as consumers, that trust that we used to have. Like I know now I'm like, oh, no point in reading a review because they're all going to be fake. But I'll find someone on TikTok and be like, oh, let's see how it applies. How does it look? Is it going to be good? How do they open it?
Yeah, really interesting point. But I guess, again, that's the beauty of having physical retail is it's needed because it's got such an important role to play in trust, as you've just described.
Exactly.
Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. So if people are interested in finding you and your products, where do they go?
They can go to ByStormBeauty.com and it's ByStorm.beauty on all socials as well. TikTok, Instagram, all of the things.
All the things, all the socials. Okay. Well, it's been really good to have you. I loved meeting you last year. I love what you're doing. I wish you every success. And I look forward to seeing, your products hopefully in physical retail. Fingers crossed. Yeah, it's been great to have you on. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I just so appreciate it. Thank you so much.
If you found value in today's chat, the best way to support the podcast is to share it with a colleague. Make sure you hit follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. And I'm always eager to hear your takeaways. So do drop me a DM on Instagram at Inclusive Change or send me an email. All the links to connect with me and to learn more about today's guests are waiting for you in the episode description. Thanks again for being here, and I'll catch you next time.